Well, Jay Nichols is right in the middle of this debate. He's an actual professor. He teaches African American Studies at the University of Maryland. And he's guest for the show. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So it seems like kind of would be a baseline for a university to have pretty much absolute freedom of speech, a prerequisite for freedom of thought. What's the point of having colleges if you can't say whatever you want?
Well, I think number one, in society, we don't have complete freedom of speech. Allahu Akbar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What's going on, Habibis? I'm Siraj Hashmi.
I'm Mujahed Kobbe.
We're the Habibi Bros. Welcome to another episode of Habibi Power Hour. Now, as always, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter at Habibi_Bros. Jay, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful, sir. How are you doing this Tuesday?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm very excited to see you get messed up here. Drinking what exactly?
I'm going a little different. I'm usually drinking bourbon all night, but to be a little balanced tonight, I'm going with vodka and Red Bull. It's a little bit of both, mixing it together.
Very, very nice. Very nice indeed. Speaking of balance, we want to bring in our guest for this evening. The invaluable, the honorable Dr. Jason Nichols. Doc, get in here. How you doing here? How you doing, buddy?
Chilling. How you guys doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to be here with you and Jay.
It's a world's client. So for those of you who aren't aware, Jason and I did a podcast all throughout 2020, as well as a BB Power Hour called The Balance. And so it's just like the worlds are colliding here. But you can follow Jason on Twitter at Dr. Jason Nichols. He is also the host of the Daily Callers podcast. It's the Vincent Jason Save the Nation. I remember doing it once a couple months ago. So that was a fun podcast, Jason. You guys got a good thing going.
Yeah, no, thanks. We're really excited about it. We think it's going to grow one day. You know, we look up to you guys. We want to be like, you know, the Habibi Power Hour and get those cool graphics and, you know, and do all of that. So,
hey, man,
we're growing slowly.
We're always here for you, brother. So if you need any advice on that end or any graphics, I'll just submit Jay's. I'll give them to you.
And if you need like fuzzy camera work, if you need, wrong timing, if you need any of that kind of stuff, we got you. We're right here for you.
So Jason, since the last time we actually had you on anything Habibi related, that was election night, November 3rd, 2020. We're almost a year into, almost a year removed. What has been your takeaway? We're almost like 9 months into the Biden administration. How do you think he's doing?
I thought he was doing pretty well. But, middle of the summer or middle towards the end of the summer, he hit a really rough patch. And he hasn't found a way to get back from that, partly because Democrats are just so terrible at messaging. Like, they are really bad. It's almost as if they run from their own accomplishments. But, Afghanistan was a debacle and a terrible situation. There's no way to sugarcoat that. They fumbled the ball there. Been a couple other things that I think are just kind of political, stuff, when you've got like the situation with vaccine mandates and COVID. But I think the right was able to turn the corner after, months of hammering them with January 6th and saying the adults are back in the room and that things are under control. And then after Afghanistan, that argument, just doesn't fly anymore. So I think Biden's struggling. It's showing in the polls, but I also think that we're a ways away from midterms. So I think, he can come back from this. Like, it's not like he's done for. he needs to get those independents back. So he just needs to pass some good legislation, get this Build Back Better thing going, get the whole infrastructure thing going, and I think they're in a much better shape going into 2022.
What do you think he's been doing well, though?
What do I think he's been doing well?
Yeah. I mean, like he said, he was doing well up until the summer. What was it during the spring, like the rest of winter and springtime, that he was actually doing well, in your opinion?
So, when I say doing well, of course, I compare it to the last administration.
Of course.
So basically, not being a headline is kind of doing well. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's fair.
Not causing waves all the time, and in a way that was kind of lowering the temperature. And I think even Republicans who wanted a high temperature couldn't get one. They had to send the My Pillow guy out there and like trying to get some kind of controversy. Of course, the migrant situation, which I think immigration is always going to be an issue. It was an issue in 2018. It was an issue in 2019. We kind of took a break for 2020 because of COVID. But, I think what people miss out is that there was a big backlog, and, it started to kind of creep up around March of this year. And then, we had the big Haitian migrant push in Texas. So I think he did a good job after January 6th, kind of lowering the temperature, managing things well. The economy was kind of coming back. We looked like I thought we were in a relatively good place as a country. And then Afghanistan happened. And, and then the migrant situation happened. And I think he's going to have, there are going to be a lot of attack ads about that. So he's going to have to pass some really good legislation really soon.
So Jay, and this is sort of your turn to, and Jay, I know this is going to be a very difficult question for you. Has there been anything in your view that Biden has done right? I know you're going to say no, there hasn't been a single thing, but I want you to think hard about this one. Has there been one thing? Say one nice thing about Joe Biden.
He looks good in aviators. Does he really does look good in aviators? To Jason's point, like I agree to that extent on where he wasn't making headlines, but there were a lot of issues that he had before Afghanistan. But I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or Siraj's mom's back, because I think there's a lot of things boiling up to that point for people to see that there's a lot of stuff being mismanaged by Biden. And this was just like a huge fuck up. And it was huge enough for people to actually comment on, report on, and actually showcase that this was a real big fuck up. And the migrant situation as well. And there was an ebb and flow to it, but I think he allowed for it to get worse. I think he allowed for it to get worse through policy, through his rhetoric. And now that it got as bad as it did, they had to reinstate Trump's policies on the border because of how bad it was, and trying to deter more people from coming into the border. Like economy wise, I think they fumbled it big because of more shutdowns, more mass mandates, more hindering the economy. But I don't think it's all of Biden's fault. What's happening, especially like what's happening at the port, what's happening around. It's not really his fault per se, because there, like Jason was saying, there was a huge backlog on manufacturing orders, because I come from manufacturing. So there's a huge backlog on manufacturing orders, just normal product orders, and all of this stuff, especially from China, when they were having because when COVID hit with China, it was their new year. And they weren't saying that it was because of COVID that they were closed down. So their new year, usually they're closed down for 10 days or even less.
I
5
thought,
to 10
their
days.
New Year's in the middle of to late January. Is that correct? Or is it rotate every year?
I think I don't think it's in the same
Because COVID
place.
broke out in Wuhan
October.
in like November. Yeah.
Yes, and
But they definitely have a fall festival, do they not? They got it.
I think so. I think I'm mistaken. I think you're right. I think it's some
Yeah,
sort of festival or something. But they
with your
started
I'm surprised with your obsession over Asians.
that I wasn't able to get this one right. Hey,
You
look,
should be able to get this
Japanese aren't Chinese, man. Come on, they don't all look the same, please. But what I was saying is that they were coming up with a lie on why they were shutting down when COVID was outbreaking. And as that was happening, there was a huge backlog on orders and stuff that was coming through. There's more than 70 carriers out there, almost 70 carriers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And each one can hold up to 15,000 containers, 15 to 21,000 containers. And there's a backlog. I mean, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to get here from China. And then it's 5 to 6 weeks waiting to get offload it and then off to the manufacturing company. Yeah. So what's happening with that kind of stuff, I can say that it's not really his fault what's happening. It's a COVID situation.
Well, I mean, but then again, this is where I push back on, because you can look at our policy on COVID, just either federally or statewide, wherever the ports are. I assume all the ports are along, Washington, Oregon, and California. That being said, you have if there is a issue with putting people back to work, you're putting COVID restrictions on port workers and offloading all these containers from these shipping boats. That policy directly impacts whether we can actually offload all that shit. Jason, am I getting this wrong?
No, I think that sounds about right. The reason, but I would agree more with Jay.
Whoa! That's not allowed here.
Right. That's not good. That's you don't do that.
No, don't do that.
In this particular case, I agree with Jay in the sense that that's kind of a global phenomenon. First of all, in terms of the backlog, and they're saying, like, I was reading somewhere that the price of containers themselves is literally through the roof right now.
It's for an empty container, it's $15,000 with nothing in it, no product in it, no nothing, just to get the container. It went from $3,000 to $15,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, everything is just kind of going haywire, and I think when we talk about this electorally, people are going to blame Biden in the United States, right? But that doesn't mean it's his fault. And in terms of the economy, if it weren't for Delta, the economy would have already been back. We would be, we're damn near at full employment now. I think, what were we at? 4.8% unemployment.
Yeah, but they've been missing the target. It was a big
miss. They missed it by almost 400. I think 325, 400,000.
Yeah.
400,000. And
we only added 200,000 jobs.
Yeah.
But I will say again, that I think a lot of that is due to the spread of the Delta variant, particularly in Southern Republican-controlled states. So I think there's a narrative to, for Joe Biden to get away with this in some ways. But the problem is, because you look at a state like California, which was out of control with the first wave, but they actually have the lowest amount of COVID cases in the country, I believe, right now, the lowest COVID infection rate. So when you talk about those southern states, the Floridas, the Arkansas, the Alabamas, the Mississippis, all Republican controlled, I think Biden has an argument like, you guys weren't listening to me, but they're so terrible at messaging on almost everything that I think the American people are going to blame them. There are a lot of states that had Delta somewhat under control, and those are the states that were largely vaccinated and things like that. So we definitely missed a lot of opportunities. and we didn't add as many jobs as we would have liked, and there were a lot of problems there. But I think that there's a way that he could do what Trump did so effectively, which was offload blame in other places. And in this case, it's actually genuine.
Well, I will push back on that a little bit because, like, in terms of cases, there's a difference between cases, hospitalization, and deaths, I find. And there's going to be a null that's happening right now in Florida. Florida is not as bad as people are making it out to be in terms of cases. I mean, just because if you do it in pure numbers, yeah, they're going to have a lot. In terms of cases in pure numbers, California has more than Florida or Texas in terms of cases. But per 100,000, I think Florida is like in mid. It's like I think it's 10th or even lower.
Well, it's interesting. Interesting. So I'll give you an example. Florida had a massive surge like in the midst of August. No lockdowns. No, they didn't do anything differently, and it's already back down to that pre-surge. Like the same.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, if you look at the actual numbers, those numbers are down. Well, I mean, and if we want to look at, say, that's new cases versus deaths rolling 7-day average is 150. Last time it was that high was right before, I guess, right before August. So things are coming. It's interesting. I don't know how to explain it. And this virus it seems like it's endemic. And at this point, and I've made this point quite a bit, is if it's endemic, why are some people still in lockdown mode? If it's going to stay with us, Jason, then shouldn't we just go ahead and continue to take precautions and just live our lives as best as we can?
I think the key thing that you said there was to take precautions.
But everybody like takes precautions by like not touching a dirty door handle, or like the stuff that you normally did before COVID. Jay, did you just lick your hand?
No, I did. I'm just messing.
Anyways, Jason, sorry to cut you off.
No, I think one of the reasons we're seeing cases go down, I think we're under 100,000 per day, which is a good thing. We want to get down even lower. And in terms of hospitalization, even though I think it was Mississippi, if it were its own country, would be like second in the world in hospitalizations or something like that. I think Florida, number one, started to improve because it got a lot of resources from the federal government, including
Regeneron, monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah, so I think that was a lot of it, was them getting those resources. And now the federal government is saying, okay, you're doing better. Now we need to spread out these resources around the country. I think also people in Florida and in other states, even those southern states, there were some smart people who started to actually be like, maybe I should get vaccinated. You know what I mean? Now I understand the hesitance, how people are hesitant to agree with vaccine mandates. I get that. I don't love it. I'm not as opposed to it as some other people are, particularly in certain fields. Like if you work in a hospital, I think you should get freaking vaccinated. You know what I mean? If you work on a shipyard, maybe not. Maybe you can just get tested weekly. But I think in a hospital, you need to be vaccinated. When you are dealing with cancer patients or people who are immunocompromised, I
think there's some people who are very responsible given their field, and there's some people who are irresponsible. And ultimately, it's interesting because you've seen a lot of healthcare workers who refuse to get vaccinated end up either quitting or being fired. And I'm curious, Jay, do you think that's going to, we already seen this level of precedent. Are we going to see it so that you have massive labor shortages in, say, like the field of healthcare, in teaching? I mean, there are going to be people who are just going to be out on.
There was
on the streets basically looking for work, and it's going to all depend on whether they're vaccinated or not.
There was a report, I think it said that 4.6 million people quit their jobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Spencer, thank you. Spencer, our producer, says 4.3 million Americans quit their jobs in August. And also
in August itself.
In August itself, 4.3 million. That's crazy. And also just for the jobs report, 235,000 positions were added, and the expectation was 720,000. So thank you for that, Spencer.
Right.
Anyways, go ahead, Jack.
But yeah, I mean, that's a testament to vaccine hesitancy. And you can't tell me that 4.6 million people who decided to get to quit their jobs are all Southern state, Trump voters and all that kind of stuff. That's not what's happening here, especially when it comes to vaccine hesitancy. You can argue that there's a majority of Southern states and populations that don't want to do it, but it's not every single one of them. And I agree with Jason on how there should be certain areas of people who work, like NFL players. They don't need it. Healthy kids going to school, they don't need it. You don't need to do a vaccine mandate for K to 12. You don't need to do a vaccine mandate to people who are healthy in the NFL. Maybe you need to do a vaccine mandate for people who want to go eat McDonald's every lunch and dinner break. But healthcare workers and stuff, there should be in that industry and within private hospitals and private companies. It's to their own discretion, in my opinion. If they want to lose out on the employment and cause this shortage to their own dime, that's up to them. And it's getting crazy. I mean, I have my girlfriend. She's a doctor here in California.
Thanks, Ben Shapiro.
No. I don't know if you guys know. I don't know if you guys know, but my girlfriend is a doctor.
We have Jay Shapiro joining us right here. Thank you, Jay Shapiro.
My girlfriend's a doctor. No.
Allahu Akbar.